Good morning and welcome aboard the Robinson R22 two-seat helicopter. This morning we're going on an aerial photo shoot of commercial buildings in the San Diego and Oceanside, California area. Pilot Will is just going through a few final pre-flight checks and then we'll soon be underway. Our flight is going to take us west, then north, towards Oceanside, which is about 35 miles from here, and then we'll proceed back to San Diego. And we're ready for liftoff now. The transition to flight, as is the whole flight in the Robinson R22, is very smooth and very controllable. And that makes this helicopter very ideally suited to aerial photography. We're leaving out of the Montgomery Field Airport area in San Diego. We're going to pass over a couple of freeways, and I'll point out some features for you along the way. This first freeway we just passed over is State Route 163. These are some nearby commercial and retail buildings. The next freeway that we're going to pass over is Interstate 805, and you'll see it now just above the instrument console. It's morning time, and so there's still some traffic congestion, as you'll see on the freeway. Looking straight ahead is west, and panning to the left, looking south, you might be able to make out part of the downtown San Diego skyline. I'll pan one more time to the left for you, and you'll be able to make out part of Mission Bay. We're a little more west and north now. The building in your bottom right is the Mormon Church, and the Hyatt you also saw there briefly, the red building. This cluster and collection of white buildings is the University of California San Diego campus. The interesting terrace building coming into view in the center of the frame now is Gaza Library, named after Dr. Geisel, the creator of the Dr. Seuss series of books. With the clarity of the camera, even though I'm using a rather wide lens here, but looking out of the helicopter, which has no door, making it ideally suited for aerial photography, you'll be able to make out a snake on the winding pathway towards the library. This golf course that's coming into view is Torrey Pines Golf Course, which is famous on the PGA circuit. Coming up in a moment, you'll be able to make out the red buildings of the Del Mar Fairgrounds. This is Los Penasquitos Lagoon. There's the red buildings I mentioned earlier of the Del Mar Fairgrounds. That lagoon is Penasquitos Lagoon. So we're coming into Carlsbad. And we'll see the Encina Power Station in just a moment. We're now approaching Oceanside, and we've arrived at our first set of buildings that we're going to photograph near the State Route 76 Mission Avenue area. We fly several orbits at different altitudes, giving an opportunity to get different perspectives of aerial photos, oblique views, as well as shots that are more direct down on the buildings, particularly which you'll see in the upcoming aerial photos. There's a total of 6 buildings that were photographed in this location. We're looking east again now, and having completed the shots, we're going to head east and then south towards the other buildings that we'll be photographing in the San Diego area. First, we're going to pass over Lake San Marcos, and then I'd like to show you the Haines Dam, which is here in the screen now. It's one of many reservoirs in the San Diego area. Next to Haines Dam, you see another body of water coming into view, and that's Lake Hodges. The wind that you hear is, again, because there is no door on the helicopter. And so it's very easy to pick up wind, as well as the outdoor temperature, which actually is quite warm today at about 85, 90 degrees. And even though we're flying right now at about 85 knots at an altitude of about 1,500 feet, it's very comfortable. We've arrived here at our other set of buildings in the San Diego area, showing again the different oblique views, different perspectives that were captured as part of the aerial photography of these commercial properties. Photography was conducted at all points around the building, even shots more directly downward. Coming up in this next image, you'll see the ground view of that very same building that we captured from the air. This is a different set of buildings, again offering the same type of oblique views and different perspectives of aerial photography, using all professional equipment with the best lenses to ensure the highest image quality. This is a view from the ground of that same set of buildings that we just captured from the air. We've now arrived at our final set of buildings. That's the linear image pair of buildings right in the center of the screen. Again, we did orbits around the building, getting a variety of perspectives, looking at the front of the building, and then again the front of the building from the ground. On our return flight now back to Montgomery Field, we passed over Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. After having got approval from the Miramar Control Tower, we were able to proceed safely over the military airport. I've switched now to a wider lens to give a broader view out the helicopter, and you can get a good feel now of just how this helicopter provides the most clearest view without having any doors on the side. And even through the front screen, it's a very clear view. Passing over some multifamily residential area. More commercial buildings, and then you can see the runway for Montgomery Field just ahead. We're flying at about 60 knots right now, but slowly reducing our speed as we begin to make our partial orbit around the Montgomery Field Airport building complex. Down below you can see a helicopter with a rotor spinning. That's in the general vicinity of where we're going to be landing shortly. You can see on the high horizon, the far horizon, some of the mountains to the east of San Diego County. The nice smooth orbit that you see that we're doing here gives a really good example of exactly how we did the aerial flight over the buildings that we photographed earlier. We in fact use a much tighter orbit around those buildings. And one of the great advantages of using the helicopter, as I mentioned earlier, is the precise control of the aircraft, the ability to hover. But as we demonstrated today, in a very short amount of time, we were able to cover many buildings throughout the whole flight of just one mission. And that mission captured 10 buildings in one aerial photography assignment, which otherwise could take several flights. We're making our final approach now. We're going to pass alongside the helicopter whose rotor we saw spinning earlier. The helicopter just in the center of the screen that you see coming into view now is Mercy Life Flight. And there are two helicopters up ahead. The red one is the one whose rotor was spinning earlier, and the one a little bit closer to us is also a Robinson. It's an R44, the 4-seat helicopter. The 2-seat that we're in now, the R22, has a lower operating cost. Its doors are off for us, and it's just a very, very efficient, relatively low-cost way for capturing aerial photography. A nice, very smooth landing. So in 1.5 hours, we covered about 80 miles and captured 10 buildings for aerial photography. So I invite you to visit my website for more information about this aerial photography mission and accompanying architecture for photography as well. That's at AbounaPhoto.com.